DeWyze, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And Dan Greenwald on my left.
Psyched to be here.
Thanks for being here on a
Yeah.
Monday. I don't even know what time it is.
I don't either. I think it's around 1 o'clock,
Around 1 o'clock.
I believe.
And you've had a rough night, I hear.
We had an interesting night last night, yes.
Can we talk about that?
I feel really bad about it.
So we won't.
We can talk about it. I think the deer is okay.
You're a big animal lover, I hear.
I am. I do. My wife and I, we do a lot in LA with dog rescues and things like that. So I'm a big animal advocate. And we were driving, and a deer came out of nowhere and like sideswiped us. It was really crazy. We were on an on-ramp, getting onto the freeway, and like that, just boom. And as you know, we were in the middle of Massachusetts, so there's no like shoulder. It's like freeway and rail. So we took the first exit we could. We got out. I mean, that thing did some damage to the car for sure. And it wasn't this grotesque thing. It was just like the car was pretty fucked up, and it was definitely.
You can't avoid that.
It was a jolting experience. It's never happened. It's one of those things I think everyone's like, I hope that never happens to me. And everyone's had a close call. You see deer crossing, you're like, yeah, sure. They are. And it was definitely scary. And it was a quiet drive to the hotel from there. But we were okay. Honestly, we were okay. Luckily, I mean, it was one of those situations, not to make more of it, but, 6 inches this way, 6 inches that way. No windows shattered, and it was like this far off the driver's side window, so pretty gnarly.
Well, we're glad you're okay.
And for the sake of the deer, right?
Yeah.
Because I see that you're caring a lot about the deer.
I mean, it's one of those things. You're like, I maybe just killed something. And
those things, they withstand a lot.
I know. I believe me. I'm telling myself that, and it was big. I mean, if you saw the damage.
So I've hit a deer before, years and years and
Really?
years ago. I have a place upstate, so there are deer there all the time. You make a turn, and boom, it's right there. I saw the thing flip. I got out of the car. It was stunned. Looked, eyes
and it
met.
was like, "What's up?"
He got up.
Yeah.
Is it
walked
dangerous
away.
to approach a deer or no?
I mean, usually the deers, they don't want to be approached and they just move. But you know what? It's the same thing. It's a living creature. I wanted to make sure it was okay. But these things,
We
are
didn't
pretty
really have that
durable.
opportunity because, like I said, it was like it wasn't like a road we could pull off. There's car, it was that whole thing. So I mean, we got off the minute we could, and it was just one of those things. But
We're only going to dedicate 30 minutes to deers.
I mean,
and
this is a
could-
whole deer podcast. This is what I was told
Yeah.
when I was coming
Yeah.
here, that we were just going to talk about deers
Yeah.
the whole time.
Yeah.
But
So we're off to a
have you
good
been? We're getting there. Have you been a animal lover your whole life? You grew up with some pets.
I love animals, man. I think I don't know. I have a dog, and
You're gonna go to your manager and be like, I didn't know I was going on like an animal podcast.
yeah, no. I mean, I love animals, man. They're just one of those things that I've always enjoyed. Even when I was a kid, I loved going to places, zoos, and things like that to see animals. And
Well, I have 3 kids, so
3 what?
3 kids. So
Okay.
kind of like the same thing.
Yeah, people love when you say that too. You're like, oh, you have any kids? No, I have a dog. It's you get it. You have kids, right? And it's like it's not the
I
same
have
thing.
3 animal kids.
But it's something you care about. It's something you're taking care of, and but yeah, I do love animals. So that part of it, the heaviness of it, it's like, all right, there's only so much you can do. We were okay, and could have been a lot worse. So
well,
thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and is this we're at Stand Up New York Comedy Club on the Upper West Side? Probably your first time on the West Side.
I've been
up here?
I've been over here many
Okay.
times, just for different various things, whether it be shows or events or whatever.
And where are you from originally?
I'm from a suburb right outside of Chicago, Mount Prospect. But as I got older, I moved out when I was 17, so I bounced around a lot in the city, outside of the city, suburbs, all over the place.
You moved out of your house when you were 17.
Yeah.
What?
It
what
wasn't
happened
this terrible reason. I wish I had a better story. It was just I was a very independent kid, and I was at 17. I was like, okay, like right after high school, I'm like I need to be doing my thing on my own, and it was a good experience. I think you learn a lot. You learn very quickly, and I think I kind of had that growing up. even on the musical side of things, you know, I was always playing shows in bars and stuff way underage, you know, but we can't pay you, like, that's fine, you know, let me just play.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent so much time on my own anyways, doing my thing, and music was always kind of at the forefront of what I wanted to do. And it wasn't, I was never encouraged, you know, you have to have a backup plan. My parents knew me well enough, like, I'm like, this is what I'm going to do music one way or the other, and I'm going to figure it out on my own, you know, I'll figure it out. And
So you were a little kid, what, 8, 9, 10,
Yeah.
and you fell in love with like tunes back then, music back then?
Yeah,
or-
my dad. So my dad worked at the post office, you know. So Sundays were his day off, right? So those were big days. It was like Bears games and music. Those were the two things. And he really was my first introduction to the kind of music that I would eventually fall in love with, and then eventually start to write, which is that storytelling, you know, singer-songwriter vibe. Because I remember early on he'd play lots of different things, you know, from, you know, the obscure, you know, Tom Waits and, you know, Kingston Trio and things like that, you know, to Pink Floyd and those kind of things. But I was always really drawn to, you know, Paul Simon, Cat Stevens. Those two were probably the biggest influence on me. And I think it was the storytelling of a Paul Simon and the harmonies with Simon and Garfunkel. Like, I always was just drawn to that very young. And the emotion of Cat Stevens, you know, when you listen to a Cat Stevens record, he's always pouring this kind of like raw emotion into the vocal, and I was like really into it. And so I remember my dad one Sunday, it was kind of like a thing where he would put the records on and we would like just listen to music. And he put on Tea for the Tillerman, and I remember hearing that record, and if anyone was to look at it, you flip it over, it didn't open up, it was just the back, and it had all the lyrics, very small. Every song was on the back of this vinyl, and I would just read along to it, and I was just blown away by the fact that, like, it was like the first time I realized that songs are more than just music and stuff you're hearing. Because when you're a kid, you know, you hear Wheels on the Bus, it's just fun to sing, it doesn't matter what it is. But when you can kind of connect that there's a story here, this person's trying to say something, and you start to get that visual of it, it changes the way you look at music.
Did your dad play the guitar?
My dad tried, you know, he was, you know, my first experience with music was my dad playing, you know, Lord, I was born randomly. You know, that was like, I remember
How old were you?
I mean, he's so young, 5, 6, and that was my first experience with music, you
Yeah.
know. My dad kind of playing songs and us, you know, listening to him, and I think he just enjoyed it. He played when he was younger, like, you know, not like I'm playing, but he had stacks and stacks of like, learn how to play the Beatles and learn how to do this, and, you know, and so I remember when I got old enough, I was very drawn to music, and so I didn't really know what my outlet was going to be for that. And so the first instrument my dad got me, which I'm sure the rest of my family regretted, was a drum set. And because I was always banging on stuff, you know, and I was really into that. And this is when I was like 13. And so I got pretty good, you know, I got pretty good at it, but then I kind of hit this wall where I was like, this isn't really what I want. There's something more here for me. I want to sing, I want to write songs. And then it was like, I want to play the piano, you know, so they got me a piano, and I taught myself. I was very, you know, I'm self-taught on every instrument, but a lot of the reason was, you know, my parents, we weren't, you know, it wasn't this terrible situation, but, you know, my parents both worked full-time jobs. My mom worked at the hospital at night. It wasn't like, hey, Mom and Dad, can I get me some piano lessons? That wasn't really even a conversation. So it was like, I can figure this out. And so I did the best I could, and I started learning, and again, it wasn't doing it for me, and that's when my like love for, you know, those artists and songs really started to come out, and I was like, I want to play guitar.
And that's also when you're, you know, a teenager, when you're starting
Yeah.
to, that's the time that,
Right.
hey, I got some passion.
What do I do with it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Girls, the coolness factor.
And I remember saying to my dad, so after the keyboard thing, and I played for a while, I was like, do you have that guitar still? And I mean, my dad didn't play for years. Like, it was kind of like, we were all kind of grown up now. It was in the closet, you know, it was just back there collecting dust. He's like, yeah, let's dig it out. So Sunday came around, we dug out the guitar, we pulled it out, and he had stacks of like, learn how to play the Beatles and all these different things, and no strings on it, you know. Can we go get this, you know, strung up? And it was like an old Yamaha. And so we did. We went and got it strung, and we brought it home, and I pulled out these books, and I started just, you know, this is what a C chord is, this is what an F is, this is a G. Okay, cool. And if you put those together, I can make a song now. So what I would do when I was like 15, I'd say, I'd start playing the Beatles songs and like making my own lyrics up to them, because I didn't. The idea of like writing a song, it was just like, well, they already wrote the chords, so I'll just make up my own lyrics, But that kind of got me very comfortable writing and making up my own. And then eventually I was like, okay, I'm gonna write my own song. So, I took what I learned and I just started writing my own music. And, it was kind of like, it was that moment that I didn't get with playing the drums or playing the keys. It was like, this is it. And I was able to like connect with the guitar in a way I wasn't with the other instruments. So, and from there, it was just like, I've been writing music ever since.
What did you write about in the way beginning?
It's a weird thing, when you're that young, there's only so much you can write about. And so for me, it was really striving to write those songs that I listened to. Like, I was like, man, how do you listen to like Father and Son? I'm like, I want to write a song like that. But you don't realize that, it's time and experience and things that you can, put into your music. And for me at the time, and you're also very guarded when you're that young. You're not like, I'm not going to write about my emotions and my feelings, So it was just love, love. And I think that's like the easiest concept to grasp when you're that young when it comes to music is love. You can write about love. Okay, fine. So, 50 songs about love, but then as I got older and, I started getting a little deeper, and then 17, I move out and I start doing my own thing. The music became much more real, and it became much more of not so much a hobby and something fun. It became an absolute place for me to vent my emotions into, and it was like a total release for me, and it became that thing for me. And once that happened, the music started becoming real, I think.
What did you have like naysayers? Did you have people that, or like grandparents, would be like, go to law school?
That's an interesting question, because I think that like anybody, you see someone that's 17, whatever, teenager, and they're out, I want to be a baseball player. I want to be I want to be a rock star. And people are like, cool, okay, keep at it, So there wasn't really people that were like, you can't do it, because I think that there was some element of what I was doing that they could see something was there, and they believed in me. But my parents were never the types to be like, you can't do that. It just wasn't like that. And because I was the way I was, very headstrong, very chip on the shoulder, I'm going to do this. It wouldn't have been an argument or a conversation that would have mattered anyway. So there, I think, the whole thing was, we're going to support this. And so they were very supportive of it from the very beginning. My dad bought me a drum set when and I remember that being a big deal because they didn't have all this money. So to come home and see this huge drum set, I was like, I knew for me, like emotionally, I was like, I know that they had to buy this, and I know how important it was. So it was like very important to me to play it and get good at it, because I didn't want it to be a waste of money, for them. But naysayers, there's always naysayers, even to this day. There's always someone that's going to push against whatever you're doing, especially when you find success. I find that's more when the
And how do you handle that when that happens?
I just don't. I really learned to not care. I think going on American Idol, to be totally honest, was the first time I ever cared about what I sounded like, to be totally honest. I'd be in bars and I'd be playing gigs and I would be doing my own thing, and it was just, I'm just being me, I'm just doing me. And then it kind of got to a point when I was on the show where I'm looking around and I'm like, oh, like I have to be better than people, and that was weird for me. And I think it was the first time I started like being self-conscious about like how I sounded. And, growing up listening to Bob Dylan and, those kind of things, that was never like, wow, those vocals, And so it was a weird experience, and it kind of fucked with my head a little bit when I was doing it. And I think once the show was over, I was able to kind of like reel it back to what it was that I loved about it in the beginning, because that's why I went on the show in the first place. I love music, and it was just an outlet to do that.
And that's probably, that's also what like people probably, they also connected with, because when people, like especially singer-songwriters, when they're doing it, you feel it. You really feel it.
And I think it's very easy to, for me, it was never a forced thing. It wasn't like, I'm a great singer, but I want to be a singer-songwriter. So how can I do that? It was the other way around. I felt I was, I felt songwriting was my gift, if you will, and my voice was secondary to it, almost in a way. I never thought of myself I never went on the show thinking like, I'm the greatest singer and I'm gonna prove that. It wasn't about that for me. And I don't think the show caters to, at the time at least, I can speak from my experience, it didn't cater to the singer-songwriter. It wasn't, let's find, a great singer-songwriter. It was like, let's find a star, right? Yeah. And so that was an interesting thing as well. And so coming off of the show, I think the most interesting part was, how do I show the people that have been watching me sing these covers, how do I show them that this other side of me that, you can't show in the minute and 30 seconds, for 12 weeks over the course of this show. And so they're used to seeing one thing and I do another thing. And so I think that transition was the most depressing, exciting, and amazing period of time after the show, where I was like, okay, now what do I do? Because I grew up listening to those artists, and here I am now doing this, and going through weird thoughts of like, Paul Simon would have never gone on American Idol, right? Thinking those things, but at the same time, it's, especially the way the musical climate is now, it's like, you got to do what you have to do to get heard, and that was just my way of doing that.
Whether it was a fellow contestant or judge, who had an impact on you?
That's a very good question. I have not been asked that before. From like that scenario, like who had the greatest impact on you? Whether it be like a contestant or a judge. I'll be honest,
or nobody.
This is the truth. The judges had zero impact on me as far as as far as talent, right? They didn't teach me to play guitar, teach me to sing. I think the show, and I'll just say the show in general, the impact it had on me was letting me see things from a different side. Sure. I'll even say that from a business side, almost like having a judge be like, I could hear that on the radio right now. I'm like, what? It's a very weird feeling. And you're like, okay. So I think the biggest impact I had, that the show had on me in general, and we're talking aside from the fans. Obviously, you gain a lot of exposure, you get a lot of fans, and I'm very grateful for that. But I think the biggest impact it had on me was, first of all, you can't let like one thing define who you are, right? It was very easy for me at the time to come off of the show and be like, this is who I am now. And I think if I could go back and tell myself something, it would be, you're going to do a lot of other things, and, enjoy this time, because, your path, everyone's path's different from the show. Everyone has different goals, and that's the reason everyone has a different path. Some people go on the show, I think, to be famous. I want to be famous. Some people go on the show because they're amazing singers. Some people go on the show because they've been watching since they were 7 years old and they want to do that. Me, it was, I want music to be my career. I want to write songs. I want people to hear me. How can I get the most people to hear me and see me so they can hear my music? And like, that was that for me. So I'd say the biggest impact was just kind of seeing it from a different point of view. Always growing up thinking songwriting's this like, thing. It's like, oh no, there's a music industry and there's a business and there's a whole other element to what you're going to be trying to do that you need to be aware of. And
it's a beast almost, right?
Yeah, it's a very large beast. And I think it was almost, I think right afterwards, I had to kind of reverse engineer my career a little bit. I had to be like, okay, I've been on the talk shows, I've done these things, but like, I want to find myself in all of it. So kind of deconstructing it to a point where I got comfortable enough to be like, this is what I'm doing. And a big part of that was being able to write a song for The Walking Dead. It was kind of that first moment where I was able to really not showcase that I'm a songwriter, but people got to hear me in a different light completely, because what American Idol is and what the music I'm writing now and the music I was writing, a year after that album came out are much different. And it was like on a very large scale, being able to show people a different side of who I am as a songwriter and a singer.
What does your tattoo say? I just noticed that.
This is, I carry it in my heart, I'm never without it. And that is from an E.E. Cummings poem. And my wife has the other half. And our dog passed away like 5 years ago. And so we were like, let's go get a tattoo. And we did. So I've got a lot of tattoos. I have a Shel Silverstein tattoo. I have, the bridge of my first guitar. My tattoos all definitely mean something. I've never walked into a tattoo place and been like, flaming dice. Let's do this.
A dolphin.
Yeah, exactly.
Smurf.
Exactly. And I have no color on my tattoos either. I haven't made that jump yet. I just like the black ink, and I'm due for another one though.
Did you bond with any of the other singers on the show?
I mean, just naturally, yes. There's no one on the show that I look back at and there's no like ill feelings towards. I mean, you're in a position where, first of all, you're all at this point in your lives where you're like still figuring shit out. I went on the show, I was 23 or 24, and again, at that point, I was years on my own, so I was a little more independent than some of the people, but I think you're naturally going to build these bonds, and you're naturally going to gravitate towards people that kind of, are in that same headspace as you. So it was, and you almost have to survive that mentally, because it's interesting when you go on a show like that, you have this idea that, at least I struggled with, I'm taking the easy route, but realistically it's the hardest route. I mean, mentally for me it was. And so to have other people around you, like kind of just to like lean on and stuff was very helpful. And of course I had my family, my friends that were, there as well. So, but I got through it.
And how did the Walking Dead gig happen?
So I was in the.
Were you a fan of the show?
I was a big fan of the show, and I was writing this song. I was just and I was just doing this for seriously hours, and I was like, that's just cool. I like it. And I was very inspired by the show. I just got done like watching an episode, and I was in it was dark in the house, and so we had a rehearsal for like a gig coming up, and I started playing the show. My manager Bert was like, "What the hell is that?" I'm like, "Oh, this is a song I wrote for The Walking Dead, but I don't know." And he's like, "We should really record that." I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love to." And he was like, "Cool, we're recording it this week." It was like that kind of moment. And so I got to work with Paul Cartwright, who's just a ridiculous violin player. And we went into the studio for a few hours. I wrote this song, and there was even moments when we were recording that I went like into the other room and I closed the door. I'm like, okay, this lyric needs to change. And we got in there and we just recorded it. And at the time, I was I was signed to Vanguard Records in LA. And we sent the song to them, just kind of like, hope they like it, and it was, I don't even know now, maybe it was a week, 2, I don't know, but they got back, they loved it, and they actually like formed the intro of the show around the song, which was just, and then they used it at the end of the show as well. So I'm watching, I'm like, oh sweet, there it was. And they used a lot of it, like 2 minutes of it. And then it came back up at the end, and I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Because being a fan of it as well, we've had songs in other shows, Shameless, there's been quite a few shows we've had songs in. Recently we had a song in the trailer for the Julia Roberts movie Ben Is Back. So we've had some cool songs placed in different spots, and I think a lot of that has to do with the way I write. It's very, you can throw it on something visual and it kind of pulls a different, this emotion out. But when that happened, it was like, it was a very good kind of, almost vindicating feeling, like, yes, like, okay, I can do this, and it felt really good. Yeah.
So after the show, what are you thinking? Like, were you just going with whatever was thrown your way, or did you have a plan for?
There's an element of having to kind of mold to whatever is happening.
Yeah.
Because you're the new guy. You're the guy that just won a show. Yeah. So it's very difficult to walk in a room and be like, here's how it's gonna fucking be. All right, here's what you're gonna do here. So there was an element for me of like, I gotta ride this wave out and kind of appease the people that might need to be appeased. But I was very adamant about writing my own music, and whether it be writing the songs or co-writing the songs, I'm like, I need to be involved in the writing process. It cannot be a situation where, Lee, here's your song, and then I'm like, thanks. That just, and not in a defiant way. It was more of like, I know that this album's going to come out, and I know after this album comes out, there's going to be another year of American Idol, and I'm going to be the guy that won 2 years ago. And what's he doing now? So I knew that for me, it was never like Idol, that's it. There's got to be a career for songwriting and doing what I do for years. And so I needed to have that element connected because, I think the hardest part coming off of the show, like I said, is just like, transitioning from being part of this big machine, you know, and being on TV every week and all of that, to now like, okay, well now here's your career now. Like this is, you know, you went from, I hope I can be a musician touring and playing shows, to like, that's what you do now. And so when that kind of dawns on you, it's daunting, and there's a lot of pressure, but I kind of hit this moment where, you know, I leaned back and I was like, okay, like, I'm going to write good songs. I'm going to write good songs, and I'm going to do what I do. And I met my wife, you know, shortly after I was on the show, and she's an actress out in LA, and she's like the most down-to-earth person. And it was really good for me to kind of meet someone that's, you know, she was in the industry before I was in that way. And so it was always really a good balance. And she's definitely been like a, you know, person that's kept me sane for, man, without her, I definitely would be like out of my mind. But, so there's those anchors that kind of keep you afloat, and you know, from that to, you know, I've been lucky enough to work with people that not only believe in what I'm doing, but are passionate about what I'm doing, from my manager, Bert, to, you know, just a lot of the people I work with. And I think that that's something I learned as well, is that, you know, for me, I can't work with people that aren't passionate about what I'm doing or understand what the goal is, even if we don't know what the goal is at that moment. You know, here's what we're trying to do. And I think that that's like an important thing for any artist. Like, you got to work with people that believe in what you're doing as much as you do, you know?
So was there a song, you know, Idol's done,
Yeah.
trying to navigate, trying to figure out,
Yeah.
hey, you know, there's this big giant machine, I want to do my craft.
Yeah.
Was there a song that when you wrote it, you did it, you performed it, like, this is it?
Where I felt like this was like, this is the
it.
first step towards what it is I want to do.
Transcending Idol, this is me, this is me.
Yeah, I would say that I wrote a song. So for my album after Idol, after that first record, I wrote a song called "Breathing In," and I think that for me it's actually one of my favorite songs to play ever. It's one of my favorite songs I've ever written, and it was definitely one of those moments where I was like this is what I'm capable. Like, this is what I'm capable of. Like, I knew it was in there, and I was almost. Honestly, like, it felt really good to know I didn't lose that. That was like what the feeling I had when I started working on that next record. It was like, oh, I didn't lose that part of me. It's still there, and there was so much of it built up, ready to like come out, that it was just like.
Can you give us a dose?
Yeah. I mean, I can play the song for you.
Terrific.
I do love this song. This is "Breathing In."
I'm gonna have to tie my feet
Awesome.
Why is that one of your favorite songs to play?
I think because
And that was awesome, by the way.
I think because it really like encompasses like exactly a lot of the feelings and emotions I think I was feeling at the time. And there's something about when I play that song that I'm always taken back to it, because what the song is about for me is that it's kind of what we're talking about is having that anchor. And so it's a mixture between like my wife, and there's a line in the song talking, I almost forgot that the world fell apart today, but it's not so bad. And it's kind of that like feeling of, things aren't always maybe as bad as they seem. And it's just there's a release to the song when that chorus hits, and it's at the end of the day, it's a reminder of the important things and all of those sorts of things. So that song just has always meant a lot to me.
How much is your music or your writing process like therapy for you?
Completely, 100%. And I write very in the moment.
Like if one day you're in like in a shitty mood or in a dark place.
I definitely write better songs when I'm down, and someone might be like, well, you've written a lot of songs, so what does that mean? But it doesn't necessarily mean that like, I'm just this depressed individual walking around writing sad songs, I'm definitely inspired very much so like by what's going on in my life, by the emotions I feel, whether it's something I see or hear, and I write very in the moment and in real time. I think I write at night a lot. I think at night and very early in the morning are the two times I think I write the most, and I think you're closest to your kind of subconscious in those moments. It's 4:00 on a Wednesday. It's hard to sit down and like write that song. It's much easier when you're sitting on your porch and it's 12 o'clock and there's nothing but just you. And
what's a porch? We're in New York City here.
Sorry. Yeah, that's right. I forgot. No. No, it's, I'm in my backyard and I'm just like, I'm writing, and honestly, not to segue it like that, but the first single off of this EP is called Night and Day, and it's literally about exactly that. And I find that like sleep is sometimes the only real escape from what might be going on in your life. You could be going through so many different things, but like when you go to sleep, it's kind of, you just let go in those moments. And that's what that song's about. And yeah.
So is this your 10th album?
It's actually my 143rd album since.
Your what?
No, it's
a lot of dark thoughts there.
No, it's interesting. Sometimes the songs that I write in those in those darker moments really are songs to help you pull out of those moments, because you can't let the down moments in your life define the up moments of your life. And what was your question? You were asking me about.
I forgot.
I
But
did too.
your new album.
Yes. Yes.
Is every song like a continuation of the one before? Does it tell a full story?
They all have been in a weird way, but this one specifically feels like all of the albums kind of got together and like had a conversation, or like, hung out, and this is what came out. And Night and Day was the first one we released.
So what's the common theme of the album?
I think self-reflection, I would say. Self-reflection. Yeah, that would be what I would say, especially.
Needed today.
Yeah, I mean.
In the world we live in right now.
Yeah, and, I never like to throw things in the mix just for the sake of it, but I think that just generally speaking, with the climate of today, it's very easy for stuff to bleed in to what you're doing, and yeah, Night and Day is definitely one of those songs for me. So,
back to Idol for 1 second. Not that I want to talk about the show, but that was your first. That was the biggest audience at that time that you're performing in front of. So what was that like?
40 million people watching at home is definitely the biggest audience I've ever had.
Yeah.
It was
but not people watching in person though.
I think that the most nerve-wracking part wasn't playing in front of people as much as it was knowing that like you're not in a situation where you're just performing and they're enjoying. The word judging is there. There's judges.
But it seems like for you, you enjoy the songwriting process more than performing in front of a lot of people on stage, right?
It's a combination. One feeds the other. I love the songwriting process, and then I love to bring that to the the stage.
Mm-hmm.
You feel the groove, like when you're in front of a crowd and you know when they're in groove with you, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And that, I mean, imagine
there's a big difference between singing at somebody and for somebody, you know. And so for me, I'm always trying to sing for them. I like to think that everyone has their own little image they have in their head that they can latch onto a song. And I've said this in the past, but it's the best way I can say it, is that I feel that each one of my songs, I want it to feel like a little soundtrack to whatever they want it to be in their mind, you know. And that's my goal always, is that someone hears it. It's like that old thing where it's like, don't think of a pink elephant. Like you do, like I want to make you think. I want to make you think about what I'm saying. I want you to make you think, and I want the lyrics and the music to feel how it sounds. You know, I want it to feel the way it's sounding to you. You know, not just like you're hearing it. I want the emotion of the song and what I'm saying to also make you feel that way. And that's it can be tricky that sometimes, but I've kind of figured it out, I think.
So do you like to play just you with your guitar? You have a band around you?
Sometimes I play with strings with me. I play with a band. I mean, I'd say 80% of the time I'm up there with my guitar, and so I've become very comfortable with that relationship between me and my guitar and being able to do different things with it. It's, you know, I always like to think of it, it's not just, you know, guy playing the guitar. It's I try to make it sound a lot bigger sometimes than that, and sometimes I try to make it seem as intimate and as like lean in as you can. But at the end of the day, like, it's really about putting the emotion behind the song and being honest in the writing. If you're honest in the writing, you can be honest in the performance, and that's like what kind of my driving force is, I would say.
What's it like when a fan tells you like how big of an impact a song made on their lives?
It's the coolest thing ever. I mean, when you can like have somebody, I mean, without being too cheesy or cliche, when you can touch somebody with your music, it's like really, you can forget that that's what you're doing. I think music's like really powerful in general. I think, you know, you can have people on one side or the other of anything that just hate each other, but you can find them at any moment listening to a song and enjoying it. Music is one of those few things, and I think art in general, but for me, like, music is one of those things that, you know, it really does bring people together, number one. And number two, I think that the impact that your songs have on people, you don't realize sometimes until you like can see it. You know, when someone comes up and says like, this song, you know, I've had people come up to me and say I was, you know, going through bouts of my life where I was contemplating suicide. I've had people say I've lost somebody in my life, and I've had, you know, whatever it is. I had someone tell me that they got a divorce, and one of my songs they were listening to, and it like, they called their, you know, their ex up and was like, hey, I'd love to like talk, and like, so when you think of the span, you know, you're putting these songs out there, you don't get to know what they do, but those special moments when someone can share that with you, it's like very, it's powerful. You're like, wow, okay. You almost feel like a responsibility when you're.
Yeah, it's a mission.
Yeah, it feels that way, and it is really cool. And you know, I think that's always, again, the goal of what I'm trying to do.
What's the first single off the album?
First single is Night and Day, and this was the first song I wrote for this, and I really kind of tapped into this part. I wanted it to be very conversational, and I think that people can really, I think the lyrics in the song are things that everybody has said at one point or another in their life, and then there's kind of this release into that sleep state, which I was talking about. So I'll play it for you.
You would love to hear it.
All right. This is Night and Day.
All my days feel long and the nights feel short, and I think I'm tired, but I'm not quite sure. And the movie sucks and my head feels numb, though it's bright outside. Can't wait for the night to come. And for a while there I was amused. Just one last night to be confused about the center of this thing I'm in. But don't get tired, it just starts again. All my days feel long and the nights feel short, and I think I'm tired, but I'm not quite sure. And my timing sucks, and my head feels numb. Though it's bright outside, can't wait for the night to come. All my days feel long, and the nights feel short, and I think I'm tired, but I'm not quite sure. And the timing sucks, and my head feels numb. Though it's bright outside, can't wait for the night to come. It's when the witches and the ghosts appear to show you everything is crystal clear. They told me things I know I won't forget. Could someone tell me, is it nightfall yet? All my days feel long, and the nights feel short, and I think I'm tired, but I'm not quite sure. And the timing sucks, and my head feels numb. Though it's bright outside, can't wait for the night, for the night. Can't wait for the night to come.
Thank you.
It's great. Ben Harper. That's what popped into my head.
He's one of my favorites all time.
Yeah.
All time, yeah. I remember when I discovered Ben Harper, he plays this song Walk Away
Yeah.
that I covered for years, and I actually had a chance to meet him at the Hollywood Bowl, and we were talking, and we jammed on it for a minute in the Greenwald, which is one of my moments.
So I bring him up. First of all, I love the song.
Thank you.
Like really, it the ups, the downs, the
I appreciate
nature of
that.
people.
Yeah, exactly.
It hit.
Who hasn't felt that, I guess, is kind of the vibe.
Well, it's part of being a human creature.
yeah.
So I think, as you said it before, that when you write and you dip into your own personal emotions, we call it up, down, but it's all people connect with that.
Exactly.
It transcends it.
Is it an emotional experience every time you play?
Yeah. And I guess I like to say that the day that I don't feel that, that might be it for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to imagine a time where I won't feel that, because I could be just in a shit fucking mood. I mean, I could just, for whatever reason, like anybody, you could just be like, this, that, or the other thing. And it's not always this terrible, I'm 90, most of the time on the road, I love playing, but there's those days you have, and it can be really difficult to kind of pull it together to be like, I can't wait to get up there. And then I get up there and just something happens and I get to, do my thing, and I immediately am taken into that place, and it's kind of like, it's like a stress reliever in a weird way.
Mm-hmm. What's the music business like? So you have a new album.
What's the music
What's
business like?
I mean, what's
we need
what's
2
the
hours
goal?
for that.
Like you have this new album.
What's my goal?
Like, yeah, for this album, like what's success look like?
Good question.
I think success
Think
for
so.
everybody is very different from person to person. I think it's very easy in the beginning when you start in this industry. I think everyone has very similar goals when they start. I think it's, I want to win a Grammy. I want to play arenas. There's like always that vibe. But I think as you grow into what it is that what it is you love about music, it kind of starts to tell you like what it is about what you're doing and like what your goals are. And so for me, success is, if I was to like really boil it down, I want the most amount of people to hear and connect to these songs as humanly possible. Like that's the goal. Like,
And how do you measure that? How do you know that's happening?
You don't. I mean,
Is it just
on a much more mechanical side? You could be like, how many streams are there? How many people? Whatever. But I don't look at things in terms of that. I try not to, because when you start to gauge yourself against, I think that's one of the hardest things, is to not like, well, this person's doing this, what are this person, that's not, it's very easy to get lost in that. I think for me, success is also within the music. Like if I feel that I did what I wanted to on this song, and I feel that it is good enough to put out there, because I would never put something out there that I didn't feel was worth listening to, I guess, in a weird way. I try to make music I would like to listen to, but I take it seriously in the sense of I want to put out music that I think carries weight to it, and so there's those times I'm writing for my record and I get to do that, and then there's those times I'm writing for a project or a movie or a trailer, and I get to step outside of that box and put on a different kind of hat, or different creativity gets to come out. But when I'm writing my own music that I'm going to be putting out, I think it's really hard to say what success is, but I think at the end of the day, it's getting people to hear the music and enjoy it, and if it does that for I mark that as a sign of my own personal success. I think that's the best way of looking at it for me.
Okay. And then do you have a tour lined up?
We just finished up like a run of show. We did a whole bunch of shows, like a month and a half and 3 shows, and we just did another run on the East Coast. And so we're releasing this EP October 25th. It's called Castles, and we're gonna definitely be out there on the road the end of the year, playing shows. But I tour a lot, so it's going to be good. We're going to be taking a little bit of a break after this, and then I'm going to be back on the road.
What are some of your favorite places to perform at?
Oh man, that's a tough one. It's really hard to say. I'm from Chicago, so I always love playing in Chicago. I do love playing in New York. I do love playing. It's easier to say cities than venues. I love playing in Denver. I love Seattle. I like places with character, I like the character of the city, and but I honestly, the people at the shows can really make it an experience. Everything, they can make or break an experience. There's places I play where I'm just like, I never want to come back here, because it's just been weird experiences. And it's like, okay, something's wrong with the vibe there. But generally speaking,
do you have that feeling here today?
No, this is actually really comfortable. I'm not always super. I'm good at talking because I've done it for years and interviews, but there's like moments when I get to really talk about the real shit, and versus the the Wikipedia page, look up and
right.
Like, so Lee, I see here, it's more of like I get to have a real conversation, and I think that's more inviting.
Well, I mean, for me, what I'm psyched to have learned right today is that you are on a mission. It's like a soul. It sounds so stupid.
I know what you're saying.
Soul mission of.
Yes.
It's great when people can find what they feel like. Hey, this is what I got to be doing. know, and you're out there doing it. It's.
I want the music
exciting.
to be an escape for people.
Yeah.
I want people to hear it and be able to just escape from whatever into the music, and like that, like I said, it kind of sometimes has a responsibility. It feels like a little bit. Then there's other times where you're so focused on the business side of things that you're like, okay, we got to do this, we got to get the artwork, we got to and But at the end of the day, it really all kind of goes away and comes down to like being up here singing the song to people listening.
Do you? Your voice is it sounds really pure, right? It's just a very pure sounding voice. Are there thoughts? Have you explored kind of like Paul Simon Garfunkel, playing with other soulful, brothers, sisters that you feel like you have a groove with? Yeah,
I mean, I've thought about it many times. I think there will be a time in my life where I want to try something new and branch out into a different thing and try it for a different project. I mean, I'm always open to that. I think it would have to be really right. I think
fit.
It would have to be the right fit, and not saying that for both parties involved. Sure. It'd have to I'm pretty in the studio. I'm a little not like crazy, but like I definitely have my ways, and I like things to be a certain way, and whatever. But I love writing with other artists. I love working with other people. I'm always open to different creative people and seeing what can happen.
Is there someone that comes to mind that you would love to play with?
I mean, there's a lot.
One of your top 10.
Just pick a top 10 person that if I could sit down and like write a song with, that I would.
Yeah.
Sam Beam from Iron and Wine.
Nice. Voices.
That's just the first one that comes to mind. I think the way he turns a phrase, I think the way he presents what he's trying to say is very unique. In a world of, there's a lot of singer-songwriters, and I think what stands out sometimes is that, and that the way he says certain things and writes a certain way has always like spoke to me.
So it's funny you say that. After my dad passed, right, I took a whole year off of like, seeing live tunes.
Yeah.
And that was the first show I saw after.
Iron and Wine.
Blown away.
Right?
Like bawling. Like,
yeah, man.
It just pulls it out of you.
It's that emotion.
Yeah.
And it's really what it is, man.
Yeah.
It's and I think that's again like what I'm just drawn to it. I think it just makes music so much more interesting for me. It's so much that kind of music, the way of it's just interesting, and you can get lost in it. There's layers to it. It's not just like one door you go in and I'm here. It's a house with 50 doors that you get to explore, and it's like.
What do you think about playing a cover of Iron Wine to close us out?
Oh,
or from the new album?
How about this? I'll play you a song. I was actually very excited to play you guys Castles today because this song to me is by far in my top, like very top for me of songs I've written and what they like mean to me. And I wrote this song about, I don't know, I'm sure you guys have experienced those moments where you see or hear or smell or you visit somewhere you were when you were younger and you're a kid and you're just taken back and you have that like feeling, you're like, oh my God, I feel like I'm, 10 years old again. And it's really quick, it's like you have it, it's there and it's like gone. And it's not something you can make happen, it just happens. And I think that sometimes there's also those moments where things from your past that you've buried kind of revisit and all of that. And I wrote a song about that, and it's called Castles. And I named the EP after it because I felt it kind of encompasses the whole EP, I guess, and kind of what I'm doing now. So this is Castles.
Sun is going down, backs are to the ground, mid-November. From your castle in the trees, hear you call to me, I remember. Oh, the things we miss, with grass stains on our shins. Do you have to go? Do you have to go? Tell me, do you? You don't wanna go, you don't wanna go. Tell me, do you? Taking turns we find, seeking while we hide, chasing memories. Still I know the somber song of the meadowlark written for me. Oh, the things we find when scars are left behind. tell me, do you? You don't wanna go, you don't wanna go, tell me, do you? Oh, the things we miss, oh, the things we miss, all 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 the things. Do you have to go? Do you have to go? Tell me, do you? You don't wanna go, you don't wanna go, tell me, do you? Sun is going down, backside to the ground, mid-November.
I don't know if I can wait till, when is it, the 24th?
25th.
25th?
Yeah, October 25th.
That was
I'm
amazing.
super excited about it, man. I appreciate you guys having me here.
Dude, congratulations.
Thank
Like,
you.
we look forward to the new album coming out. And
Thank
if
you
there's
very
anything we
much.
can do to support you.
Yeah, man,
We're
I just
here.
appreciate coming here and having a real conversation and being able to play the songs the way they were written and, you know, being able to kind of talk about a little bit more of the why, you know?
Totally, it's the mission.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Awesome. We
All right.
appreciate you and your
Yeah.
music.
I look
Thanks,
forward
man.
to seeing
All
you
right,
guys
man.
again, man. We got to do this again sometime.
Yeah.
It was very fun.
Yeah, awesome.
I appreciate it.